Mr. Dominguez, I noticed that Dr. Kaye Whitley is not in her chair. Is it under your direction that she is not shown for testimony this morning?
Yes, sir.
You directed her not to?
I did.
Do you have an executive privilege to assert?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Dominguez, this is an oversight hearing. It's an oversight hearing on sexual assault in the military. As such, we thought it was proper to hear from the Director of the Defense Department's Sexual Assault Prevention Response Office, Dr. Kaye Whitley. Your own website states, and I quote, "SAPRO serves as the single point of accountability for Department of Defense sexual assault policy." Dr. Whitley has testified in Congress before, in fact, before this very subcommittee 2 years ago, also on sexual assault in the military. While we understand that you're involved with these issues, along with your vast other areas of responsibility, Dr. Whitley is the day-to-day person who coordinates all policies with the military service branches and other federal agencies. For the sake of continuity, detailed responses to the General Accountability Office's findings and recommendations, and general sustained oversight from the 2006 hearing, we feel strongly that Dr. Whitley should be sworn in to testify in addition to you. If the head of the SAPRO office is up to the task of coordinating sexual assault prevention response through the military, which is a huge undertaking, then surely she can come and speak for herself and answer questions directly from members of Congress. The SAPRO office was created precisely to ensure that the Department of Defense and the military services would not follow the unacceptable mentality that led officials to circle the wagon and engage in cover-ups in the wake of the tailhook in Aberdeen. All of this is why we're so puzzled that the Defense Department, apparently you in particular, have gone to such great lengths to try to stop Dr. Whitley from testifying and speaking for herself at this hearing. We invited Dr. Whitley to testify at this hearing more than a month ago, on June 27th. Inexplicably, the Defense Department and you, apparently, have resisted. We were forced to issue a subpoena to compel Dr. Whitley to testify. Despite no claim of executive privilege, because none exists, the Defense Department appears to be willfully and blatantly advising Dr. Whitley not to comply with a duly authorized congressional subpoena, something that would put Dr. Whitley in serious legal jeopardy. As I said, these actions by the Defense Department are inexplicable. It's more than curious why the Defense Department is making every effort, including flouting a duly authorized subpoena, to stop Dr. Whitley from testifying and speaking for herself. It appears that there's disrespect not only for the two women that preceded the testimony here, but for everyone who finds himself in a similarly situated circumstance, and for others who continue to be in the service, for the General Accountability Office, who spent 2 years investigating this matter in an effort to help the Department of Defense comply with its congressional responsibilities and its own moral obligations, and obviously, as I was saying, it shows contempt for this particular subcommittee and the full committee as well. We're going to be considering all of our options here in the face of this blatant disregard of the subpoena. I'll be forced to seek a contempt citation at the next full business meeting of the committee, whether that'll be against you or Ms. Whitley, or Dr. Whitley, or both. We'll take some other appropriate action as may be there, but I think you've imperiled Ms. Whitley probably unnecessarily in that respect. Mr. Waxman, do you have any comments to make?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Department Agency Sexual Assault Prevention and Response Office, known as SAPRO, that's the agency that's in charge of dealing with these sexual assault problems, and we asked the Department of Defense to provide Dr. Whitley, who's the person in charge of this department, to come and testify. And we were told that that she wouldn't be permitted to come and testify, so we subpoenaed her. And notwithstanding that, she's still not here. And Mr. Dominguez, you said you've instructed her not to come. What is your reason for doing that?
Sir, in consultation with the department's leadership,
tell us who in the leadership. Who did you consult with in the leadership of the Department of Defense?
Sir, I consulted with the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Legislative Affairs and General Counsel of the Department of Defense. And they told you not to let her. She's under your command. Is that? Yes, sir. She is my subordinate, and the point we are making here first is that she is available to the Congress and the members, and has been up here repeatedly on her own with her staff, unfettered, unmuzzled by us, to provide whatever information she has and answer any person's questions. In this hearing format, we wanted to ensure and make the point that Dr. Chu, the Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness, and I are the senior policy officials accountable to Secretary Gates and to the Congress for the Department's sexual assault and prevention policies and programs. If you find the Department's response and prevention efforts fall short of your expectations, responsibility for that shortfall rests with me. And for that reason, sir, Dr. Whitley was directed not to appear today.
That's a ridiculous answer. What is it you're trying to hide? She's the one in charge. Let me speak. She's the one in charge of dealing with this problem. We wanted to hear from her. And despite a subpoena from a committee of Congress, you've been instructed by the Secretary, Undersecretary, or Deputy Secretary in charge of Legislative Affairs not to allow her to come? Well, and you want to come because you're in charge of this area and you can speak instead? Well, do we have to subpoena the Secretary to get people in the Department to come before us? We subpoenaed her. You've denied her the opportunity to come and testify and put her in a situation where we have to contemplate holding her in contempt. I don't even know if we can hold you in contempt because you haven't been issued a subpoena. Mr. Chairman, the Department of Defense has a history of covering up sexual offense problems. We all remember Tailhook and the scandal and how the military tried to cover that up. And I don't know what you're trying to cover up here, but we're not going to allow it. We're going to talk further as to what recourse we have. I don't know if we need to subpoena the Secretary and then hold him in contempt, Mr. Chu, and hold him in contempt, you, and hold you in contempt. Those are better options to me than to hold her in contempt when she's put in this untenable position, when her in the line of command instructs her not to comply with a subpoena of the United States Congress. I don't know who you think elected you to defy the Congress of the United States. We're an independent branch of government. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to talk to you and to Mr. Shays and Mr. Davis about what we do next, but this is an unacceptable, absolutely unacceptable position for the Department to take, and we are not going to let it stand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Shays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the full chairman of the committee. Mr. Waxman has the authority solely to issue a subpoena without the approval of any member here, and he has every right to issue it at any time. But in this case, you have the chairman of the full committee, the ranking member of the full committee, the chairman of the subcommittee, and the ranking member of the subcommittee, which is me, all in support, and I will cooperate any way whatsoever to get Ms. Whitley here. And I would ask Mr. Dominguez to reconsider his very foolish decision and encourage her to come, and if not, we will get her here some other way.
Sir, I do want to say...
we don't want to hear from you right now, Mr. Dominguez. Let me tell you, we're more than a little bit upset with you and whatever this false notion of bravado or whatever of thinking you're covering up for something or for Dr. Whitley. Is she in the room today?
No, sir.
Is she not even in the building?
She's not, sir.
Right. Mr. Chairman, who's here to advise you on the details of that office and what they've done?
I know the details of that office and what they've done, sir.
Well, let me tell you something, Mr. Dominguez. We decide who we want to have for witnesses at this hearing. We decide who are the people that are going to give us factual testimony and the ones that we want to hear from when we're investigating or having a hearing. So for now, Mr. Dominguez, you are dismissed.
Thank you, sir.
We'll proceed with the rest of our witnesses here, with the Army witness and with the General Accountability Office. And we'll hear from the Defense Department and the witnesses we want to hear from at a future date, and we'll take such action as we all deem is appropriate in light of your inappropriate action that you